Welcome, parents. My name is Miss Lacey. I am a sixth grade reading and writing teacher at Baldy Middle School. If you are watching this video, that means that your child is in section 610, 611, or 612, and I am going to be their reading and writing teacher for this school year. I know that this is an unusual time for all of us, but it is my hope that if we work together, we can make the best out of this situation. Our school year at a glance will look similar to what you guys see on this page. Our textbook is called Collections, and the reason why that textbook is called Collections is because it is broken down into 6 sections, and they are all collections of stories with the same theme. For example, our first collection of stories deal with the theme of facing your fears. Some of the skills that your children will be learning this year are citing evidence, independent reading, close reading, context clues, analyzing, making inferences, the writing process, and so much more. What does a day of Eli virtual learning look like? Well, we break it down into 2 parts. We have a live session and we have a flex session. So the live session includes students logging in. They will spend 1 hour with me. And during that time, they will engage directly with me and fellow classmates on Google Meet. Also, we begin our days with a daily warm up, followed by direct instruction of a reading or writing skill, and ends with a review of that day's learning goal. It's encouraged that students have their cameras on to ensure active participation. That is one thing that is a big challenge for me right now because many of the students don't like to have their cameras on. So I see maybe 10 out of 32 students each day. And I told them that if they were in the classroom, they would have to show me their faces. So if you speak to your child and ask them whether or not they show their faces, encourage them to show their faces sometimes so that I can get to know them. So during our live instruction, students may be placed in small group breakout rooms with other peers to encourage student collaboration. And when they are in those breakout rooms, I go to check on students, make sure that everyone's on task, see how well they are working together. And they've been pretty successful so far. So when the students are not with me for live instruction, we call that their flex time, which means that they have 30 minutes of independent work time immediately after my live time, and they are working on anything related to my class. So it's student directed and student paced. So if they're not finished something during that time, they can go back to it later on in the day and they can pace themselves because I know that they need some time away from their video screens. Students are required to monitor their progress and engage in the daily activities for 30 minutes after live instruction ends. Examples of flex time. What will they be doing during this flex time? They could be watching a video and responding to questions. They could be responding to a question on a teacher discussion board, working on a writing assignment, rereading a passage for deeper understanding. They could be completing an assessment, or they could be on the digital reading program called Achieve 3000. We have virtual learning norms, and the students have to be reminded of them very often because this is something new for all of us. And if you can encourage them to follow the norms, that would be so helpful to me. I encourage them to arrive every day promptly for the scheduled time of the session. When students have comments, I encourage them to make them only related to the topic that we are discussing. Also, respectful and courteous behavior towards the teacher and peers is expected at all times. When students have questions, I ask them to put a question mark in the chat box. The same goes for a comment. They have to put an exclamation point in the chat box. And that avoids just unnecessary conversations in the chat box. Also, they're encouraged to keep themselves muted unless they're called on to share a comment or ask a question. They are encouraged to complete all assignments by the due dates and ask questions if they're confused. Also, I encourage the students to dress for success. Don't come to class with pajamas on, laying down. Make sure your clothing does not have any offensive language or anything that would offend anyone else. Materials that your child will need for my class would be the collections textbook, digital or hard copy. Most students only have the digital right now. Also, they're going to need a Chromebook or a laptop. Some kids are getting on their phones, but I encourage a Chromebook or laptop because they can't be broken into groups if they are on their phones. They should also have a reading notebook. Some students have digital, some have hard copy, and I recommend hard copy for a notebook. They should also have pens, pencils, and highlighters and loose leaf paper. Reminders for you guys. So don't forget that if your child will be absent from virtual learning for any reason, you must fill out the student attendance form, which is posted on our Google Classroom page and Baldy's website. Also, please monitor your child on SchoolNet and Google Classroom. Online programs that are essential to our virtual learning curriculum are Google Classroom, Google Meet, Achieve 3000, and the Collections Online Text. One more reminder is to be sure to notify me or Baldy Middle School if your contact information changes during the school year. Please contact me at any time if you have questions or concerns. I can be reached at drlacey@philasd.org or on Class Dojo. And most of you guys have been invited to Class Dojo. It's just that not everyone joined Class Dojo. If you have not joined Class Dojo, make sure that you join because it is a great way for parents and teachers to connect. Thank you, parents. I hope that you are now pretty much informed about the reading program at Baldy Middle School. If your child is in section 610, 611, and 612, this is what they should expect. Thank you. Have a good evening.